What is up, guys? It is the Sound Alchemist, and welcome back to another 40 Facts on the Warhammer 40K universe. Now, if you guys didn't watch yesterday's 40 Facts, I recommend you guys watch that because we did a part 2 to an awesome fan chapter, or fan legion for that matter, based on the Wardens of Light, which was a special chapter that I really liked for a long time, and we did a part 2 on it. So go check it out. And today we are talking about yet another fan chapter, this one being the Lightning Bearers. So the Lightning Bearers is another fan chapter that also got me to continue my whole Celestial Sons lore. It's really well thought out, it's a really awesome piece of work. I will leave links to the images as well as to the Bolter and Chainsword site where you can read up on all the work in progress, all the information and whatnot. So go check it out. Really awesome work, all by the awesome Athrawes. I believe I'm pronouncing your name right. If not, sorry. But anyway, guys, we do have a part 1 to the Lightning Bearers lore. I will link that at the end of this video, so check that out first and then come back to this one so you can find out the epic battle that is to come. So without further ado, guys, let's dive into part 2 on the lore for the Lightning Bearers. The Fall of Ikarion. The sage's world burned around him. The wolf's last act of suicidal cunning had seen the Io orbital plate crippled, doomed to fall graciously from the heavens onto the world below, covering its surface in atomic fire and choking its once beautiful skies in darkness. Even through the storm, he could sense the malice ebbing from the tear in reality. It would have sickened him had he still had the capacity to feel. However, these last few weeks had robbed him of that, and so much more. Besides, in a few short hours, either way, this tear would become immaterial. This world was cracking apart. Even if the invaders left this moment with peace in their churning hearts, this world was doomed, and the tear would die alongside with it. He opened his eyes, though he could not remember closing them. He was no longer alone. The warrior across from him stood impassive. His form radiated violence, but his posture conveyed unease. That was surprising. Of all the things he expected to see in the warrior's eyes, contempt, fury, even sadness, unease was not expected. They shared in silence for several minutes, and finally the sage spoke. "Do you remember when it was just the two of us? When the favored was still bound to our father's side? It was our brotherhood, alone, together. Do you remember?" "I remember, and yet..." "It was always going to be you," the sage continued. "He would never do this himself. It's not his way. He spent millennia behind the scenes positioning pieces. He is unknowable, even to me. We talked, he and I. Our conversations were long, and yet I only ever skimmed the surface of him." The warrior shifted uncomfortably, speaking up as emotion compelled him. "You knew." It was accusation, bitter with hurt. "You saw this." "No." The word was heavy. The ache of it brought unknowing feeling back to the sage's heart. "But those eyes of yours, you once told me." The warrior struggled, as he always did with the right words. "The things you have seen." The sage, sensing the warrior's unease, interceded before the thought could be finished. "If you are looking for absolution from me, a concession that this was unavoidable, you will not find it here, warrior. I have to do this." The words sounded weak, and the warrior loathed the way they tasted coming from his mouth. Weakness should have been all but crafted out of a being like him, and yet his engineered intellect fumbled at this moment for the strength at the core of him that the warrior once found so much comfort from. To his shame, he hid behind these words as he spoke them, knowing they were untrue. "I am not like you," he said with a harshness he no longer felt. "I can't draw an arbitrary line in the sand and say, no further." The sage chuckled darkly, but in sadness. "You are exactly like me. Of all the others, you know me the best." The warrior said nothing. After all, he couldn't find it within himself to disagree, even though a quiet part of him cried out. Sighing in an all too human fashion, the warrior began to draw his blade and stepped closer. The sage nodded to himself. knowing what must come next. "I will not make it easy," he said, "but then nothing about our lives was intended for ease. You know this, warrior, that as you have come for me, he will one day come for you. This warning is my last gift to you." Before the warrior could respond, the sage was already in motion, wings of lightning arcing from his back. A world burned, and the two brothers' hearts broke. Horus and his Luna Wolves have finished subjugating Madrigal's moon Akira, and with its destruction the planetary defense grid is left vulnerable. In an act of daring, Leman Russ dispatches his own wolves to infiltrate and sabotage one of Madrigal's superorbital plates, destroying the gravity generators. This vandalism causes the orbital plate Io to crash to Madrigal's surface, dooming the world and laying open the gates for the final invasion. As Madrigal's surface burns, Russ confronts his once closest brother. Their confrontation escalates as both know there is no going back from what is inactive. Horus, at the head of his legion, fresh from the conquest of Akira, oversees the final eradication of the Lightning Bearers and seeks out his brother Ikarion. Coming upon Russ and Ikarion in a duel, Horus joins the fray, tipping the balance against Ikarion. Left open by Horus's ferocious assault, Ikarion is struck down by the errant blade of Russ, and so ends one of 20. And with the death of the Second Legion, I will end it there. There is tons more story, tons more lore, tons more images, everything you need to know about this awesome Lightning Bearers Legion. I will leave a link to it down below so you guys can head over to the Bolter and Chainsword site and learn more about this awesome work of art that was created by Athrawes. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. I think so though. Now, I just want to say that the first part that I read, the conversation between Leman Russ and Ikarion, was just so perfect. You could feel the inner turmoil between these two warriors, especially Leman Russ. He was having a hard time trying to put one of his brothers down, even though he didn't really agree with what the Emperor wanted him to do, but he had to do it nonetheless. And damn that Horus. Horus, you're always messing things up. But yeah, I mean, it had to happen. The 2nd and the 11th Legions had to be purged, and this was the story, or at least Athrawes' interpretation of what may have occurred. Again, guys, I greatly recommend you guys go down to the link in the description below to check out more of his work. Really awesome work there. We also have a part 1 to the Lightning Bearers on our channel. If you guys want to check that out, I will leave the link at the end of this video. And yeah, we'll go from there. Don't forget to check them out and let them know in the comments below what you think about this awesome Legion of his. And with that being said, guys, this is where I will end the video. As always, we post videos each and every day, so stay subscribed for more Warhammer 40K videos. This has been the Sound Alchemist, part of One Mind Syndicate, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow.
Holy cow.